Okay everyone, so before I talk about the day 15 exercise, I want to show you two different versions of the functions. So we'll say if we have a list, say my list equals 10, 11, 12, 13, okay? And then I want to double all the values in my list. And then there are really two ways to do that. And one way is we double all the values in place. And number two is we build a new list with all the values doubled. And those two are 100% different to each other. And I'm going to show you how to do both of them. Okay, so number one, doubling all the values. Come on, values in place. And number two should be build a new list with all the values doubled. Okay, so let me do the first one, doubling all the values in place. So I'm going to define a function, say called double in place, and then I take a list parameter, and then for each of the value I want to double that and then plug it back to the same place. Okay, so I can do for I in range of the length of the list param. So this is the iteration I'm using because I'm gonna need the I as the index. Okay, so I'm using the index I to visit all the members in the list. And how do I visit the member of the list with the index I? That should be the list param with the square bracket I, and then I got this value, and I want to make it double, so 2 multiplied by this value, and I want to plug it back to the same place. So it should be list prime I equals the list prime I. I grab this value and then I double that. And after doubling that, I want to plug it back to exactly the same place. Okay, so this is the first one, and say my list. Well, I'm gonna do a double in place parentheses my list. Okay, I will send the list of the 10, 11, 12, and 13 to this function double in place. And after that, if I want to print my list, and let's run this, and we should see all the values have doubled. So even though all the values have been doubled, and if you still want to get the original value, can you still do that? The answer is no, because we are doubling all the values in place. So we grab the value, we double that, and we plug it back to the same place. We are making in-place changes. So after running this function, we can't have those values anymore because 10 has been replaced by 20, 11 has been replaced by 22, so the original values are gone. So this is the first solution. Okay, let me comment out this code. So for this code, and then let's see the next one. So the next one is we want to build a new list, and then all the values will be double in the new list. However, we are keeping the original list. So let me do this one. So build new list value doubled, and then I'm still taking a list param as a parameter, and then for this one I'm gonna create a new list. That is the new list I'm gonna build and return from this function. Okay, say I'm gonna say the list to build equals a empty list, and then I'm gonna visit all the values one by one, and for this case I can use for I in list param, for I in list param, and then for each of the value I'm going to double that and then send that or append that to the list to build. So list to build dot append parentheses and I multiply by 2. So after this iteration, I'm going to have all the values doubled and then plug in right into the list to build, and eventually I'm going to return list to build. Okay, so to call this one, you have to do doubled list equals, and then I'm calling this function with my list. And after that, say I want to print doubled list, and then let me run this, and you see all the values are doubled again. However, the difference is if I want to print my list, and then my list stays as 10, 11, 12, and 13. Okay, so those are two different versions or two different strategies that we can have all the values doubled. Number one, we for each value we grab the value, double that, and then plug it right back to the same place. So that is a in place change. And the number two, I'm starting a new list from empty, and then for each of the value I double that, and then I add the doubled value to the list to build. So eventually after the iteration, I'm going to return a list to build, and then that is all the values doubled from the original list. So in this case, I have all the values doubled, however the original list is still there. So there are two different solutions, and when you are doing the day 15 exercise, pay attention to the description, and then you should decide, are we using the version 1 or the version 2? Okay, so let me show you one example. I'm going to do the question 5, and for the question 5, I'm going to take a list of the strings, and then for each of the string I'm going to change them to the uppercase, and then the same list should be updated. Okay, so for the list, how are you? The same list should be updated to how are you, all uppercases. So let's come back. We are making same list update. Are we using the version 1 or the version 2? We are using the version 1. Okay, so let's go here, and then let's see how we can do the version 1, so which is this version, right? Okay, so let me grab those two lines of code. Probably I can use that. I want to do a uncommon, and then for I in the range of my list of the strings, and then I want to make in place changes. So I want to grab my list of the strings, that is the string I'm grabbing with the index I, and then I want to change that to all uppercases and plug it back in to the same place. How should I update all the characters to uppercases? How do you do that? Do you guys still remember? That is a string dot upper, right? So this, I'm using the I, index I, to grab a string, and then I'm using dot upper to cast it into all uppercases. And what's the next? The next part, I want to plug it in right to the same place, and that is my list of the strings on the index I. So I'm grabbing the my list of the string with the index I, change it to uppercases, and then plug it right back to the same place, and ta-da, I'm done. I'm not building a new list. I don't need to do any return because I have already done the changes in place. So let's run this. Okay, so if you see the color, and then we are changing this list of the strings into all uppercases. So we are going to have Python all uppercases, hello all uppercases, and for 131, unfortunately, we don't do any changes because there's no color, and ta-da, we have that. Okay, so pay attention to those two different versions. The number one, we change everything in place, and number two, we build a new list. Okay, so good luck for the day 15 exercise. Bye.